Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, coming on here to talk about deluxe albums, deluxe albums, deluxe albums, deluxe albums. There's been quite an uptick in the release of deluxe albums, especially very recently released projects. What I mean to say here is that the concept of a deluxe record is not anything new. When in the past an album has sold particularly well, or maybe has withstood the test of time, and the creators of that record or their label want to celebrate that release by putting it out once again with some extra bonus material, thereby making it deluxe. Yeah, I mean, deluxe albums, ultimately, nothing new in the greater scheme of things in the music industry. But there have been a lot of projects as of late that have just been dropped by very contemporary artists, and some of these projects have done well commercially, some not so much, but either way, they're getting like the deluxe reissue treatment with added tracks. I mean, just to note a few, Eminem with the B-sides to Music to be Murdered By, Uzi Vert's two projects, Amine just recently did one for Limbo, Nav with his two projects last year, and just this past week, there were deluxe and expanded editions of the latest releases from Ariana Grande, Haim, Wallows, Trippie Redd. Also, from what I understand, Slow Tie is working on one for Tyron as well. So far, even though there's been an increase in the release of these deluxe projects, I'm yet to see one single thread that carries throughout all of them stylistically. I mean, what is actually being delivered can vary quite a bit. You have projects that, like in the case of Nav's two records, the original and the deluxe of Good Intentions, it pretty much seems like, another helping of the same thing. In the case of Eminem, it was very much B-sides. It felt like B-sides from the original Music to be Murdered By sessions, outside of the tracks that had a lot more recent references in the lyrics, I suppose. With Ariana Grande and with Haim, you not only got some little extras here and there, but also new versions of tracks we were already familiar with that had additional guests. Then, in the case of Trippie Redd, you had this whole other record now with Travis Barker on the front end of the original album Pegasus that is in a totally different style and genre. I mean, it could be another record unto itself. I guess all I'm saying here is that I feel like this recent rash of deluxe albums is essentially a new wave of the industry and artists trying to figure out and game new ways to squeeze every single penny that they can out of an album cycle. And at one point earlier last decade, I feel like this was taking the shape of, hey, let's drop a project where we are going to stream troll essentially and put 20, 25, 30 songs, 90 minutes on a record. Doesn't really matter anyway, it's all on streaming. While I understand the basics of that approach, at the end of the day, what you had was a really cumbersome project that, as an album listening experience, was just truly awful, mind-numbing. Personally, let me say, I feel like taking the deluxe album approach, even in the cases where we're seemingly getting a whole nother record on top of the original, is kind of preferable, because honestly, I would hate to see streaming destroy the art of crafting the album. And I think at the end of the day, even with people consuming music differently, your catalog is going to be your legacy regardless. And if your legacy is just a bunch of bloated ass albums with mediocre tracks on them, like, who gives a shit? 20 years from now, as people exist outside of the context of your popularity, they're not going to want to sift through 60 minutes of duds to listen to maybe the 3 or 4 good tracks that you've got. So if you are going to go through the effort of putting out an entire album, it really should be your most focused, groomed, and well put together project that you can muster, and the deluxe edition format in the streaming age allows it so that you can put out your record, you have your album cycle. Then a little bit later down the road, you can get some more streams, get some more sales, get some more attention on it by re-releasing it digitally in a very quick fashion. Give the fans some extra. Don't inundate them with the B-sides and the cutting room floor right out of the gate. Allow them to feel like they're getting something special, something they weren't anticipating before, by just putting out some of that extra stuff down the road. And look, if some of that stuff isn't the best material that they've ever heard, the fact that it's being added on deluxe-wise, and a lot of people have the perception of that stuff that, you know, oh, okay, this might have not been great enough to be on the original LP, but it's still worth trying. So if it's not your best material ever, nobody's going to hold that against you. Then when people are done listening to that stuff, they may in fact go back and listen to, you know, some of the older tracks that, hey, I know a lot of attention spans aren't as long as they used to be. Records and albums don't stay in rotation as long just because of how saturated the music market is these days. So you might get some more streams on those older tracks after people have been reminded, oh, okay, yeah, this is out. This was cool when it dropped. Oh, cool. Awesome. Great. Let's listen to it again. While yes, I will be a little cynical in this video and say this recent trend of deluxe albums might just be a bit of a marketing ploy. It may just be one that ends up benefiting the album and the artist in the long run, because Lord, I've been reviewing music for a while now, and frankly, I am frickin' tired of listening to and reviewing these bloated ass projects that are obviously filled with tracks that did not need to be there. There are so many artists out there with 60-minute, 70-minute, 80-minute plus albums, and look, I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. We both know that you have no business dropping a project this frickin' long. We know all those tracks are not going to be good. Cut it down to the best tracks, whatever is left over, put it out in a deluxe later, and people can just decide from themselves, the casuals, the hardcore fans, and if anything that is extra floats, it floats. Plus, releasing things in that way also gives people more time to, I guess, just digest all of this stuff, if it's even worth digesting. So, I don't know. Deluxe albums, they seem to be having a bit of a moment. And those are my thoughts on that moment. Over here next to my head is a video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Deluxe Albums, forever.